Hello everyone and welcome to Everything Cloud. In the last video we have seen about the ACL. There we have seen how the ACL work, how to grant the permission in ACL, how the XML file looks like, and how the XML file is defined as the owner grant as the user grant. And we have seen the demo how the kernel will define through the CLI. So let's continue in this video by knowing much about and deeper in bucket and user policy. So in the second video we have gone through the basics, so let me deep dive into bucket and user policy. So let me grab my pen. So what is the bucket and user policy? Bucket and user policy are defined in JSON format. Bucket policy are the resource based and user based policy are user based and as managed in IAM service. It is not applicable by default, but ACL was applicable to default to the user. What are the features? So it can be used to grant permission to AWS account, bucket policy only, or IAM users. It provides the very fine grained permission, explicitly deny all the permission until you allow by yourself. Then you can apply condition permission. It is declared in JSON and have a maximum limit of 20 KB. So this is the example how the JSON file looks like. Okay, sorry for that. Okay, so this is the format. This is a JSON file having many elements. I'll let you know in the next slide what that means. So let me go in the next video and we'll go one by one about this, all the JSON format elements. So what are the elements? The main element is principal, effect, action, resource, and SID. So what is the principal? The account and the user who allow access to the action and resource in a statement. In a bucket policy, the principal is a user, account, service, or other entity who is the recipients of the permission. You have to note down this. User based policy do not have the principal in statement of the policy statement, because the principal is the user who execute the policy. So in principal statement, user act as the principal statement. Come back to the previous slide and let me zoom. So this is the part of principal. So it have a account ID, user, and the user name to whom you want to provide the access. This policy is for the bucket, so it have a principal. But in case of user based policy, principal won't be involved. Okay. Next, effect. When user requests the specific action, it can be either allow or deny. Okay, that means you do not explicitly allow access to a resource or access implicitly denied. You can also explicitly deny access to resource, which might do in order to make sure that user cannot access even if it's different policy grant access. What that mean? Go back to previous slide and let me. Okay, sorry for this. Okay, this is slide. Okay, let me zoom this. So it have a effect. This effect can be allow or deny. If it is denied, case remaining all this JSON and principal action resource will be denied. but if it is in allow case, then it will be follow one by one. Okay, so it is simply it can be denied or it can be allow. Okay, next we have a action. Action is the type of keyword which is already defined by S3 to allow or deny the permission to the user. That means, okay, so in action we have already defined keyword. I'll show you how it's look like. This is the one, some example. So in action you have to define. So suppose you have a dev user and you want to give this permission, means get object location and bucket list. So it can be, dev can be do this type of action in a bucket. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Okay, let me go in next element, resource. Bucket object are the S3 resource for which you can allow or deny permission. In the policy you can use ARN to identify the resource. Okay, that makes sense. So how can we define which policy should be or which resource we have to define to the user? So that will be in a resource section. So a resource section, it have a ARN, each resource or user have a ARN. Through that you can define here. For the example, you can take this bucket, example bucket, and this wildcard star. That means you have allowed everything, means you have to define here which bucket you want to give the permission to the dev. It will be in a resource. Okay, so you have seen these two quite look similar, but what is the difference? The difference is principle. It allow the account to get the access. Okay, so for example, you have a one user which is in another account and you want to give the permission to this bucket. You have to define his account here so he can access this bucket. Okay, so this is the resource, and seed is, it's not required, is generally used to describe the policy statement. So this is the important and main element of the access policy: principal, effect, action, resource, and seed. Okay, how the principal work? Principal can be user, account, service that allow or deny the access of resource. In bucket, principal is the user, account, service, or any entity who is the recipient of the permission. It is the same definition which I have learned in previous slide. It always work on a bucket policy. It have a key value pairs. Okay, so take two scenario. To grant the permission to IMA user within your account, you have to provide his ARN. Okay, so ARN look like this. It have a ARN AWS IMA account number without hyphen and username. To grant the permission to everyone, we can use the wildcard, that is star, or we can define like this. Next is to grant the permission to AWS account, identify the account using following format. So you can have another format. In that format, in place of account number, you can use the canonical user ID. The canonical user ID act as the name value pairs. So this is the name, this is the value, and we have seen in the last video where we can find the canonical value. If you haven't seen, I'll request you, please go to my previous video and watch fully to understand about the ACL, because ACL is the first permission who get the while creating your bucket. So what is the resource? Resource it allow bucket and object are S3 resource in which you can allow or deny the permission. So you can specify which resource you want to allow or deny. So it is act as based upon the ARN. This is the format. So it have a ARN, then partition is AWS, service is S3, then you can define the region also, then you have to define the bucket name and related ID. Then it work in principle have a double colon, but in resource have a triple colon. Okay, so for this example, okay, so example bucket developer design, that means this is the example bucket having a developer bucket and having this for design info in underscore info document. You want to give the permission for this bucket, you have to define like this. Or in the second case, you want to give the permission for whole bucket which is in a example bucket, you can define like this. And the next one, if example underscore question mark bucket wildcard star, that means we have like 3 4 5 3 bucket and have a example 1, example 2. It's horrible writing, right? It's horrible to write with keyboard. And example number 3. So if you'll write example question marks, so any name which match with example and after that any name, it should accept and it have a all access. User can access every bucket with this name. The last one is you can define the ARN like this. This is the few example. So permission, you can use grant find permission access. So let me see how many permission is there. We have huge number of predefined permission. So this is the page. Okay, so here you can see the permission on the object operation. It have a multiple of get object ACL, get object tagging, get object. So this is for the object permission. It might be more than 100, including all the resource, object, bucket and sub resource, and we have to define in a JSON format. Okay, then permission related about bucket operation, you have around 1 2 3 4 5 6 for the bucket, and the sub resource having around, I don't know, it's maybe like 25 to 30 in between that. This is showing you to let you know how many types of permission we can give to the bucket, object or users. Okay, you can go to this link once again and you can see how many permission, and you can count and you can comment me in the comment. You can write in comment how many total permission for each, so it will be helpful for the other people who are watching this video. So condition is work like the same if for, that is have you seen if you know about the programming, you have a if condition, else condition, while condition. So it is work like that. So condition will help you to provide the more security to your bucket. For the example, to make this understand, let me have a 3 example. So when you granting a user permission to upload an object to a bucket, owner can require the object to publicly readable by adding the string equal condition. So to understand, suppose this is a bucket and some have a access of, suppose A have access to upload the photo in this bucket, so he can upload the photo only if it's publicly readable. Okay, so while uploading the photo, he makes sure that it have a public access. Then a second example, allow the user to delete the object only if they have a multiple authentication to do. So if somebody have deleting some folder object from this bucket, in the if and then have a if they have a multi authentication to do, it allow user to create a bucket only to a specific region. You can have a n number of condition which already defined in a AWS console, so it will help you to prevent and you secure your bucket to delete object or edit object. So it is very highly, it provide highly secure condition. So how to define that condition? Okay, so let me okay, so condition have some values. You can, for example, in this have a string equal to, then have a value and key pair. So we will define like this. This is already keyword which is already defined in AWS. So it's look like, this is just to show that how the condition look like. If you have a confusion, don't worry about that, because in the next video I'll go in demo. Whatever I taught in this slide, I make sure you just understand with the demo. So before going to demo, I request you go through all the slide which I have shown in this video to make sure to understand each and every terminology that help you to understand the demo very easy and effectively. So let me end this video, and I hope it is very informative to you. If you have any doubt, any suggestion, please comment in the comment section, so I can give the answer for any query, or I can improve according to your suggestion. Please, I request you, please subscribe with this channel, share it, like it, and don't forget, keep learning. Learning is the success of life. Thank you and bye bye.